Hey, welcome back to the Group Project Podcast. We're into the 70s. This is episode number 70, and I have none other than the shared superintendent of Eldora-New Providence and Hubbard-Radcliffe school districts in North Central Iowa, I'm gonna say. You can correct me, Dr. Z, if I'm wrong there, but I'm with Dr. Adam Zellmer. Welcome to the show, Dr. Z.
Yeah, it's a
Appreciate you
pleasure to
being here.
be here. Pleasure to be here. Always great to see you, Dr. Smith. And yeah, feel free. You can call me Adam, or whatever you like to want to call me. That's great. So
Oh
looking forward
man.
to meeting with you and chatting with you today.
So we talked about it. We've been chatting for 10 minutes, 15 minutes
Yeah,
here. And Dr. Z has got a big date coming up here about a month from now, right?
yeah. I'm
You get
getting married for the first time, so this is a big deal.
awesome.
37, getting married, and excited about that opportunity. And I'll chat about that a little bit later here today. But yeah, just real excited about that. So, as a superintendent, I told my fiance we really have a 2-week window in here
Yeah.
that is optimal to get married. And it's between closing up of books in June and before we really get rolling in July with the new board meetings to launch the new year. So I said that last week of June, first week of July is the optimal time for me to be able to be away. So yeah, we're going to get our wedding and honeymoon in, and then hopefully start a great, long, and successful life together.
Awesome.
So looking
Okay.
forward to that.
So we will come back to that then, because I do want to ask you the honeymoon plans, all that, but we'll come
Sure.
back
Yep.
to that
Yep.
here.
Perfect.
So, hey, we spent 5 of our minutes before the show just trying to talk about your position. You got a really unique position, but it's a common position because there's, especially, I guess I can't speak for all states, but here in the Midwest, there's a lot of consolidations of school districts and sharing of school districts, a very, very common thing that we're seeing. So could you try your best to explain kind of how you're working with two different school districts and how that all works?
Right, absolutely. So I'm a shared superintendent of two school districts that whole grade share their students together. So Eldora-New Providence and Hubbard-Radcliffe are two proud school districts that have been sharing their 6th through 12th grade students now for going on. Next year will be the 12th year of that sharing agreement between the two districts. But until I came on, they never had had a shared superintendent before. Each district had kind of worked in isolation, and they just kind of shared their kids back and forth in the 6th through 12th grade. We're starting to see a lot more shared superintendents across the state, or in smaller schools, shared superintendents might also take on the role of an elementary principal or a high school principal, some other role. And part of that comes down to financing. We're always talking with our legislature about more financing. And the other thing is just finding leaders that are willing to step up and lead and do those sorts of things. And so I love my role. It's an interesting role because it's not two true K through 12 districts, which some shared superintendents are
Mhm.
shared superintendents of two. And we actually even have a gentleman in the state of Iowa that's a shared superintendent of 3 school
Oh,
districts.
oh
So, and
geez.
I have no idea how he would go about do that. I would say the biggest thing is that I have 12 bosses, and that's the biggest thing about, I think, being a superintendent in general that changes is most districts have a 5, a 7, or a 9-member board, so you have that many bosses. Well, I've got 12 because I've got a 5-member board on the Hubbard-Radcliffe side and a 7-member board on the EMP side. And so there's always that work to try to find that compromise and that balance, because all of them want and need different things. They want communication in different ways, and just have different opinions and philosophies and ideas. And so, I said, sometimes it's hard to get a 12-0 vote on different things, or a 5-0 vote, or a 7-0 vote. Most of the time, we do a pretty good job with that, and I think became a much better consensus builder because of that work.
I've got so many questions about this. I just I don't want to go too deep down the whole COVID hole. But this has been a year where you've really got to be on board with your board.
Right.
You talk about those votes. Any reflections now that we're kind of coming out of things? I hope I don't jinx us. Any reflections on trying to get your boards, plural, all 12 bosses on board with your COVID decisions?
Right. Well, we really came together this summer and built that return to learn plan and built consensus around it and kind of set some tenets of, we're going to follow Iowa Department of Public Health guidance. And that's going to be our litmus test for everything that we do. And so with that, it became much easier to make decisions because we had set that as a tenet or a foundation of what we're going to do. We said we need to leave our own political decisions, our own political ideas, and those sort of things aside. And we're going to make our recommendations and we're going to do the things that are best for kids based off of the people that are the experts. We all said from the beginning, none of us are experts in this, and we need to rely on the experts for this. And so we're going to reach out and work with our Iowa Department of Public Health to help us to make those decisions throughout the year. And that's what we did. And it worked out for us. I mean, we started to get more pushback and pressure throughout the year to, relax the mask mandates and those sort of things. But our two districts, they stuck together, and until we had that different recommendation from the Iowa Department of Public Health, we stuck with our mask mandate through that time.
Okay, prior to being a superintendent, maybe just take us back here briefly on your roles before the superintendency.
Sure. Well, I'll just say, first of all, that God blessed me with a lot of amazing tools in the toolbox to start with. I feel like I was leading from a very early age. I started out at Kingsley Pearson Community Schools, spent my whole school career there, and had lots of opportunities to be a leader. And I would say the divisive time for me, and this was back in the early 2000s. I graduated in 2002 from Kingsley Pearson High School. And so this was back in the time when like work-based learning was a cool thing. And now it's kind of how it's coming back again. But so I had the opportunity. I was actually the office assistant for the principal and superintendent's office at Kingsley Pearson High School my senior year. And the day 9/11 happened, all of our administration team were gone. They were actually getting trained to have their first online student information system. And so they were getting trained on that. And our secretary in the office, she had a daughter that was flying that day. And so when this news started to come down, she lost it, couldn't keep it together. Superintendent calls me and says, Adam, you got to be the one to make the announcement over the loudspeaker to the school of what's going on. And so that was kind of my first thing. And I'm like, and I just loved that opportunity. And then all day, I basically didn't go to class the rest of the day as they're trying to get back to the school and all that, fielding questions from parents and trying to keep parents calm and kids calm. And that was really like when I knew that this was what I was destined to do. And so that was 20 years ago. 9/11 will be 20 years. I can't believe it's going to be my 20-year high school reunion coming up this next year. But that was really my foray into leadership. And so then I went to the University of Northern Iowa, and my parents were both in business. And so I was kind of torn between, am I going to go into business or am I going to go into and be a school teacher and then hopefully a school leader someday? And so I got a business administration degree and a business teaching degree from the University of Northern Iowa. And so graduated from there in 2006. And so then I went up to Hartley Melvin Sanborn up in Northwest Iowa. And I was the high school business teacher, head wrestling coach, head boys track coach, and assistant football coach up there. Did some strength and conditioning work and lots of different things. And during my time, I found the South Dakota State University principalship program. And what I liked about that is it allowed me during the school year to be online, and then to have 6 weeks during the summer intensive where you would actually be up there on campus and you would get to meet your cohorts and work with your cohorts. Unfortunately, they're not doing that model anymore, but it was a great model that was kind of a hybrid that allowed you to do both. And so then there I sit, I'd been a teacher and coach, had done some risk coordinator work, and I thought I was ready for that next step to be a principal. And so I took my first principal job at Laurel Concord Coleridge Community Schools, which was 20 minutes in Nebraska, right outside of Sioux City. And so was there for 2 years, and I was just getting ready to start back in on my doctorate work, and I had taken one class. I was meeting with my advisor, and he says, Adam, this plan's going to take you 9, maybe 10 years at the rate you're going, and to write a good dissertation. And I didn't feel like even in that first semester of taking class that I was doing either thing justice. He said, how would you like to come teach tech integration in the classroom? We'll pay for your schooling and allow you to teach 9 hours and take up to 12 hours of credit. You can live in my basement and you can drink Busch Light and eat Domino's pizza every night off $1,000 graduate teaching assistant's stipend. So I did that for 2 years, finished up my whole doctorate degree. And then my high school superintendent from Kingsley Pearson had then by that time moved to Webster City, Mike Sherwood. And he called me at the end of my doctoral program and said, Adam, we're looking late in the year for a middle school principal and has the chance to transfer into a director of teaching, learning, and assessments role. Would love to have you come and work with me again. So had the opportunity to reconnect with him at the end of his career. And so I spent 4 years at Webster City, 1 year as the middle school principal, and then 3 years as the director of teaching, learning, and assessment there. And then I got called. And like I said, God is just every position that's came my way. It's been the perfect time, just the right season and just the right fit. There's been a few jobs that I haven't got along the way that then I look at down the road and say, oh, this is why you didn't get that position, or this is why this didn't work out. And so since that time, 2018-19 school year, I've been at South Hardin Schools and finishing my 3rd year. And thankfully, during the middle of COVID, I was offered a new 3-year contract. And so looking forward to being around 3 more years and seeing the strategic improvement plan that we spent so much time on, really seeing that through. So we originally had it set through 2023. We are going to shift it back 1 more year to 2024 just because of the COVID year in here.
So I know I did give you my questions ahead of time, but you did a great job of transitioning into my next question, which is looking back on your last 3 years. And let's not do, a lot of these conversations kind of get stuck in COVID. I'd prefer not to if possible.
Nope, exactly.
What is the biggest couple things you've learned the last couple of years? Biggest takeaways?
Right. Taking the time at the beginning to look, listen, and learn is so key. In my first 6 months, I did over 650 interviews with stakeholders, and taking all of that data and bringing it together and then being able to present that to your stakeholders to help develop our strategic improvement plan. That was the key. I was able to develop so many relationships, and those relationships are the things that got us through this year. There was a trust that was built. There was a willingness to push and pull and understand that, this is going to be a tough year. And for those people that were just starting or that maybe had already been on some rocky ground in their career, I could see where this year had to be really, really hard and difficult for them just because they didn't have that. The other thing is just understanding that Rome, isn't built in a day. And for me, sometimes that's hard. I don't always have the most patience. My fiance, Sarah, can comment about my patience just about as well as anybody. But, just that you got to have patience. You want to keep moving forward. You want to keep growing. But it's okay that it's not always on your timeline or it goes as fast. The other thing for me was that we have 24 churches within the 2 school districts. And I spent my first year attending a service at each one of those churches. And that is such a great way to meet families and some of our older community members that don't have kids in school anymore. And so I made a ton of connections that way, got to meet a ton of different people, and was just a great way to connect with people on a different level and bring some people in or engage with some people that normally you might not engage with, even at the coffee shop or the school or wherever you may be. So those would definitely be some takeaways from me. As I know some people, they get stuck into I'm Lutheran or I'm Methodist or whatever. Heck, I went to them all, and I learned something new every time I went to a different church, and it was just an awesome experience
Huh.
for me being able to do that.
So you talked about some of the challenges, and you've been very positive about this the setup. You talked about the 12 bosses. You talked about having to pull everybody together.
Mhm.
What are some of the maybe advantages of working in two districts? Is there anything that you can say like, hey, this is a pretty good deal? Any ideas?
Right. Well, I think one of the interesting things is that, having two different business managers, they have some things that they each do differently. And we've been able to share, we've got two different tech directors. And so we're able to share more ideas. We've got more heads that we can bring around the table. It's great to bring two elementary principals together on a regular basis. It's great to be able to try things out maybe in one elementary school or in another elementary school and be able to share those ideas across the district. I think that's been one of the huge benefits of it. I would say another thing for us is just that opportunity to be able to expand programs for our kids. I mean, if each one of our districts were separate, we know that we couldn't provide the same opportunities that we do for kids. When we come together, we're about 1,000 students. So we're looking in that, 65 to 75 kids per graduating class range. And that's just a really nice size. That's the type of district that I kind of grew up in, and the type of district that I work best in, because I'm a relationship guy, and I want to be able to know all my teachers, know all my students, and that just provides that perfect size, that perfect opportunity. And the other thing, when you bring multiple towns together, each town has different resources, different things that they bring to the table, and so there's just so many different people that you can reach out to for help and support. And we know it takes a village to raise kids these days, and our boards right now are reading that book, Schools Can't Do It Alone by Zellmer, and doing a book study around that. And wow, powerful stuff on how we all need to come together, and just that opportunity that these small towns and these small communities bring.
Talking about Jamie Vollmer, we had him on the show.
Yes, I heard that. Heard that
I'm,
episode.
I'm looking up what number it is. I always like to give the audience 61. So if you're looking for, and I mentioned it on episode 61 as well, like a lot of districts are reading Jamie Vollmer's book called Schools Cannot Do It Alone, because it does talk about how you get that community buy-in, how you get that community engagement. And I could totally see in your setting. I mean, it sounds like you've done a great job the last 3 years of getting those communities together, but that's a great resource for some advice. And before the show, Dr. Z and I were talking, I looked it up. As of 2019, at least here in Iowa, there was 114 districts who shared a superintendent. The reason I bring that up is, a lot of people, I'm in my first superintendency, Dr. Z's in his first superintendency. A lot of people getting that first job do end up in districts where you might be working with two different districts here. So you're
either that or the two different roles that we talked about. I think it's really one or the other. When I look at the advertisements out there from the different search firms and look on, Teach Iowa, it's either those beginning positions for people that maybe don't have experience, or you aren't working your way up through the system of a larger district. It's either a shared superintendent's role, or it's a superintendent, some sort of building principal combination, and that typically happens.
I'm going to change gears a little bit here. One thing I've noticed, you and I have exchanged a number of emails over the years. The last couple years, at least, I noticed it in your signature, and I think I've seen this on your Twitter page. You always pick a new word for the year, at least the last couple of years, I believe. And if I'm wrong, tell me differently.
I've been doing it for a long time. Now I do it with my entire district. I'm a huge John Gordon fan. I was so excited, but yet disappointed to hear that Sheldon had him a few weeks ago up in Northwest Iowa. Gosh, I would have loved to visit and see him again. He was up at Sheldon Community Schools.
Jeez.
I know. I don't know where that money came from
I
or who brought that in,
know.
because I know SAI struggles to get him even in the door because he's so in demand with NFL teams that can pay him all the money and everything else. But he's got a book called One Word. And it's just a different way to think about New Year's resolutions and things to focus on. And so I do set a different word each year, and we do it actually by the calendar year. So when we come back together for the second semester, I have my entire staff come together each year, and I have each of them select one word. And then we put that word cloud together that shows words that might be in common among different staff members. And then I also ask my staff to hang those up. It's a great talking point when I'm walking around and in buildings. That's one thing that I can always check in on is, hey, how are things going with their one word? When I send out my weekly staff email, about 3 or 4 times during the year, I'll have them do a self-assessment. I'll have some questions in there to think about where they're at in progress with that one word. And one of the things I love is how my staff now feels so comfortable with me that they're willing to push back when they know my one word. And maybe I'm not. My one word this year is forward. And there's been a couple times where I've said, hey, let's put the brakes on that until such and such a time. And they'll push back and say, hey, Dr. Z, isn't your one word this year forward? And so, sometimes it's a catch-22, but it's been a great process for us. I know we love it. I know our staff loves that. And it's just a great way to just have a quick thing, a quick goal. It could be personal, professional. For me, it's just this year was how do we continue to move forward, to move out of this pandemic, to continue to move forward with our strategic improvement plan, no matter what the barrier, no matter what came up for our districts.
What I've been liking about this interview is I feel like you're giving us practical, you're taking us inside the systems you got set up, talking about a few different things. You're doing a great job of leading me into the next questions. My next question is, what is one professional practice that you do, maybe that you haven't shared already, that you would recommend to other leaders?
Yeah. Well, and I honestly, Jared, I took this from you. It's those individual one-on-one meetings. And having those with all of my direct contacts every week. So I've got 12 direct reports between directors and principals, and those one-on-one meetings have been so integral. And I'm excited next year to use those with our new school leadership standards that are coming out. And we're going to take a different standard with our board every month. And then we're going to take a different standard with our principals every month, that same standard. And we're going to try to incorporate that into our weekly meetings and into our board meetings to really get everybody on board with what these new standards are over a year's time. Because I don't know about everybody else, but that was overwhelming for me, that 2 days. And so I can't imagine bringing that before my board or before my building principals and my direct reports. So excited to be able to try to space that out and use those one-on-one meetings and our board meetings to be able to work through those new school leadership standards in Iowa.
If you want to learn more about the one-on-ones, we did do a full episode. You're doing all the work for me, Dr. Z. This is great. Episode number 36. The author of I think, at least I've seen one-on-ones talked about in a number of books. But Mark Horstman has a book called The Effective Manager. Oh gosh, am I saying that right? I think it's called The Effective Manager. I'm forgetting now. But I did a full episode with him. If you want to hear more about one-on-ones, go back, listen to episode 36. He is the foremost expert on one-to-one meetings. And I agree with you. They're game changers. And they've absolutely helped me stay engaged with our departments, our managers, which can be tricky. Those of us who come from the building, the instructional leader hat, and suddenly we've got to work with a transportation director, a maintenance director of food service. Like we're not familiar with those areas. So those are great meetings to have. I appreciate you bringing that up. Okay. So I'm bringing you on here. I've said this before when we had Dr. I'm going to say it wrong. Knost. I'm going to
Mhm.
probably say it
Riverwood
wrong there.
Central. Yep.
Yeah. So this is part of our Grunmeyer Leader Services GLS program we're running here. Adam, Dr. Z was a hire through the GLS leader search firm. And Trent, I asked him, who runs the search firm, I asked him for a couple questions. I really like this question here. And it says, what resource or resources have been helpful to you as you lead transformational efforts at your school? Is there anything that you could find that you could share with us?
Mhm. Well, for us, a big thing was to bring our two districts together was that profile of a graduate. Sometimes the Hubbard-Radcliffe Community School District was having a hard time seeing how they were having an impact on that senior that graduated school, and vice versa, how it was a true K through 12 system. And so we went through that. That was a big part of our strategic improvement plan. And the other thing we used is we did use a Foland's coherence model and framework. That was what we used to develop our strategic improvement plan on. And that's just such a great step-by-step book of how to do it. Does it take a lot of work? Absolutely. But I believe it's the right work. It's the work that is going to help us and propel us. And, we've got a long ways to go here at South Hardin Schools, but I'm excited about where we're at, and I'm excited about where we're going in the future. And it all goes back to that framework and the 5 areas of strategic improvement we are looking to make here at South Hardin Schools.
That profile of a graduate's gotten pretty big the last few years. And I just did a Google search, and it does look like it's kind of all over the place. It's not just a Midwest thing from what I can tell.
Our trainers were like from Battelle 2020, which is a national company, Battelle for Kids 2020. And I had actually taken it. I was just trying to get my evaluator training reapproved for my license. And I was like, whoa, this is really good stuff. It was at the same time I was coming into this position. And I'm like, this is going to be a great platform for us to really, truly be able to talk about, what do we want our seniors leaving school to be equipped with other than the requisite knowledge that we're trying to teach them through core standards.
You've dropped a lot of ideas here. You talked about the visiting the churches. You talked about the interviews. You talked about all kinds of things. So I'm going to try to have you come up with something new here if possible.
Sure.
What advice would you give to other school leaders who are looking to move into superintendency?
Well, first of all, you need to make sure it's the right fit going in both directions. So doing the research and taking the time to understand what position is going to be that right fit. I thought I had an idea of what the right fit was for me, and I'll be honest, I think God just kind of laughed at me a couple times and said that's not the right fit. I would go for the interview and I would feel it deep in my gut that it wasn't right, but I wanted that first position so badly. The next thing I would say is to be thinking about what is the role or what are the roles that the superintendent plays that you either don't have experience with, or how can you relate your current experiences to what that superintendent experience should be? Because I've faced it a few times. Adam, you just don't have the experience. You're inexperienced in this area. And so being equipped with what you've currently done or the sorts of trainings and things that you've had that you can provide examples in those areas is key. And the third one is, if you don't go to board meetings, if you're not required every month to go to a board meeting as a building level leader, if you're looking to move into that superintendent meeting, is get to the board meeting, see how those work. I haven't missed a board meeting since my first board meeting as a teacher at 21 years old. I've been to every board meeting. Even when I left 2 years of school to get my doctorate degree, I went to the Vermilion Community School board meetings every single month. I wanted to see how board members interacted. I wanted to see how superintendents interacted with board members, how they handled, community questions. And that's, just a wealth of knowledge and experience that unless you're there in the moment, start going there and just see how those interactions work, see how people's body language. There's a few times I'll say this year, having a mask to wear during some of the meetings was kind of a benefit, because I am an animated person, and I think sometimes my face tells it all. So
Oh man, you're just I I've done 70 of these, Dr. Z, and you are one of the best people in terms of like leading me into the next question, because you talk about the experience thing. Um, and I had a listener reach out to me this past week, kind of frustrated with I believe she'd just been told no for an administrative position, and you're lacking experience. You just don't have the experience, man, and you're nodding your head there. And man, how many times did I hear that too? Anything else you want to share about that experience? You know, we all hate hearing it because we know we're talented enough to, if we got that shot. And you've done a nice job of explaining, hey, your time will come. But anything else, any advice you want to give to listeners who it's hiring season, they just heard like, oh, you don't have the experience, we're looking for somebody with experience. What would you say to them to make them feel a little bit better?
sure. Well, can I give you a funny story too?
Yes.
Dr. Smith, I would still have a beautiful head of hair like you
Oh.
if it wasn't for I was ready to take my first principal role, I thought, at 26 years old. And so I'd had two different interviews lined up. I had one lined up for a Friday and one lined up for the following Tuesday. And so I went into the interview Friday, and I had this sweet black Monte Carlo car with the red racing stripe down the side. And, you know, I still had the long hair with, I think I was still highlighting the tips of my hair. And I went in, and I swear, I'll tell you, both interviews ended up having the exact same 25 questions. I think they pulled them off the internet, and I answered the questions the exact same way. I left that first interview, and the superintendent calls me back. He says, Adam, I loved everything you said, but I can't have someone that looks like a 26-year-old kid leading our school district. And I'm like, and that frustrated me, that it was based off of a looks perception thing. So I was telling some friends that over the weekend, and they're like, let's shave your head. And so we shaved my head. 26 years old, shaved my head for the first time. And I called up my grandma. She had the epitome of a principal's car, a white Buick Lucerne. Is there anything better that shows a juxtaposition between a black Monte Carlo hot rod and a Buick? You know, that makes you look older too, just driving a Buick. And so I roll into that next interview, shaved head, and with my Buick Lucerne car. I answer the exact same 25 questions the exact same way, other than examples that are going to be connected with that specific school district. I'm a half hour down the road, and they're calling me back and saying, you're the exact person we need for this job. All it was a look perception thing. I needed to look older. I had the right things to say, but I just needed to look more the part. And so I've kept this going. I've climbed the ladder. Most people would say I'd climbed the ladder pretty quickly, moving from a principal to a director's position and to a superintendent. I was 32 when I took the superintendent role here. And so I would just say for those people is just know your time will come. Your time will come. And the other thing is to reach back out to those schools. And I know I do this with anybody that I interview with that they want to. When they want feedback on why, I'm going to tell them. And a lot of times I'm just going to say, you need to be able to provide specific examples of what they're looking for in that role. You know, it can't be hypothetical. You've got to truly give examples. So I want you to think through that role of a principal, or think through that role of a director, or think through that role of a superintendent, and think about what experiences do you have, and specific experiences, not just I was an at-risk coordinator, or I was a special ed teacher, or whatever the case may be, but what specific experiences do you have that are going to help you to be that leader?
Great ideas. That's such a great story. I had no idea that story. That's pretty cool. I'm thinking, you know, okay, girls, what could they do? You know, because this is a female I was talking about. I'm like, I wonder what she could do to. But you're right, man. It's funny. I didn't go to the extreme that you did, but I was sick of being told you don't have enough experience. So I actually grew out the facial hair. I was always clean shaven, and And so I think I think I started getting a little bit warmer, a little bit closer to getting some positions once I started growing out the facial hair, because I think it gave me a few years. So
You bet.
that's
You bet.
funny. That is so funny. That's great. I'm glad I was like, well, he's already talked about experience a few times. I'm so glad I asked that, because it's so true. It's so true. What do you believe separates good administrators from great administrators?
Well, just like a former business teacher, I believe it's the same way with administrators. There's four P's. For a business in marketing, it's product, price, place, and promotion. As an administrator, what takes a good administrator to a great administrator is, number one, they're positive. They are positive people. They have a purpose. Everything that they do, everything that they say, how they interact, it's with a purpose. The third is they're proactive. They're not reactive. They're proactive. They are trying to stop bad things from happening, not reacting when they do. So they're working to get systems in place to ensure that bad things, or to help mitigate a risk. And finally, they partner. They partner with everyone. They partner with students, communities, teachers, partner with and network with other administrators to be the best that they can be. They don't sit back and claim to have it all figured out, but they truly partner with others.
Mm-hmm. Okay, man. Hey, this is the last question kind of on the leadership and education side before we jump into some of our quick hitters here. What do you enjoy most about being a school leader?
Gosh, I just love the opportunity to have a positive impact on people, on systems, to be able to help people grow. That's I love, you introduced me to the book Atomic Habits, and I love that idea of 1% better. And so for me, that's been huge, is helping people to realize that we're all in this continuum, and we're all just trying to get 1% better every day, and just how much of a positive impact that can have. That if each of us are willing to grow and develop, we're going to be in such a better place 1 year from now. If we look at our strategic plan 4 or 5 years from now, and just that compounding effect and the power that has. And so I love that. I love seeing those little wins, that little growth. I think another thing for me is it's just an opportunity for me to be that servant leader. One of my favorite books of all time is Lead Like Jesus by Blanchard, and it's just having that servant leader mentality, and being able to, I think there's so many lessons that to be learned in life, and so many ways to be a positive influence for others, and just being that role model that's showing that they're willing to be humble and grow, and that you can truly be anything that you want to be. I think that's key to success in life, and one of the things I love most about being a leader, and what I set my success on is the success of others, and seeing them being able to grow and develop, and providing the systems and structures for them to be able to do that.
Okay, if you're joining us late here, or you fast forwarded it a little bit, this is episode number 70. I'm with Dr. Adam Zellmer, the shared superintendent of Eldora-New Providence and Hubbard-Radcliffe school districts. I called it North Central Iowa. Gosh, it's right pretty smack dab in the middle of the state.
The southern half of North Central Iowa.
Okay. So, hey, this has been Dr. Z. We're going to transition in some other questions here. But I like it because you've been concise, but you've given great applicable ideas, and you've dropped some stories here and there. Like, this has been really, really good. This has been great. Okay, man. Next question is, if listeners are visiting your area, your cities, your school district, South Hardin, where's one place they've got to check out?
Guys, you got to go to the Firehouse Restaurant in Eldora, Iowa. Now, I have no idea. I've lived in 2 communities that have had the best tenderloin in Iowa 2 different years. I can tell you that this one is 10 times better than both of those. And I don't know how it's never been on the list. And it has the most amazing wings in the state too. So if you're looking for good wings, or you're looking for the best tenderloin in the state, I suggest Firehouse Restaurant, Eldora, Iowa. And I hope you listen to this Firehouse Restaurant. I would love a couple free wings.
Okay, so if you're not from Iowa, you don't just throw around the best tenderloin in the state line. I mean, that's that you want to
Those
you
are
want
fighting words.
those are fighting
Yeah.
words. So, and that's a pretty nice location for people traveling because it's not too far off of kind of a major, well, it's not too far from 80 and 35, but 20 and 35, it's right there. So, just drive a few minutes to the, I guess to the east of 35 there and check out those wings and check out now what kind of, what's the best flavoring of wings they've got there?
I like the Parmesan garlic the best.
Okay.
Would be my favorite. And then if you're looking for something a little more spicy, I'll get a couple Inferno ones once in a while to kind of really spice up those taste buds too.
So, hey, Firehouse Saloon and Grill people, if you're out there listening, hey, hook this guy up, man. He's giving you some free advertising. Let's get him a few wings. Okay, next question. I was going to scrap, but last episode it went pretty well. So I'm going to try it out again, Dr. Z.
Sure.
The question is, what is one sneaky good purchase you've made that like people don't know about that has improved your life?
I don't know how sneaky it is, but as I was thinking about this question, I would definitely think it was purchasing an engagement ring. I can tell you that getting engaged to be married is probably, I love the reaction that I have had from my school staff and from my communities in just they've noticed a change in me. Like I always felt like I was a positive person, and but I can tell you that getting engaged and having someone else to share life with has probably been kind of that. I don't know if it was sneaky the way that I got engaged and did all that, but that's been probably the greatest life improvement that I've done for sure. So I would definitely say that.
So the question as of a month ago was, what sneaky good purchase under $50 have you purchased? So I'm glad I changed that up because that probably would not have worked.
Yeah, no, that wouldn't have worked. But under $50, my favorite thing is I've got this skull shaver that I can put right on to shave my head, and it saves me so much time. So you just take the little replacement blades and put it on a middle finger. It's almost like a ring pop sort of thing, and I can shave my head in no time flat. So that's my sneaky good purchase. It's called Skull Shaver, under $50. I think it's $15 on Amazon.
Skull shaver. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, obviously you mentioned earlier, I don't have to think about that, but there's a lot of people listening who do have to think about that. And that's something I'm not even sure how that all works. So I'm glad you shared the skull shaver. But let's go back. So if I'm afraid we won't come back to it. Maybe we will, but where is the honeymoon location? What are the plans, or is it a surprise? I don't know how that works.
Nope. We're on board on that. We're getting married in Des Moines on the 26th of June. And then right after that, we're leaving for our honeymoon. We're going to the only adults all-inclusive in the Keys. And it's going to be in Key Largo. It's called the Bungalows at Key Largo. And so looking forward to spending 6 days down there together and come back right around the 4th of July. So
I didn't know there was any all-inclusives in the United States.
Yes. It's an adults only all-inclusive. It's just 2 years old.
Okay, people, there you go. You don't need a passport. It's at Key West, right? In the Keys.
Key Largo. So it's the first key down from Miami. So, okay. There's the chain of, I think there's like 10 keys. I've been down to Key West a few times. Great time down there. But so this is about 50 miles. It'll be about 50 miles from Miami. So it'll be the first key down, Key Largo.
So you just fly into Miami then? Is that right?
Yeah. Yep.
Wow. Okay. You're getting there's all kinds of great stuff being shared today. This is great. Okay. You've already talked about a couple books. So I'm hoping you got another one planned. We'll see. Sure. What is one book that has greatly impacted your life?
There's one, hands above, no doubt. And that's the Bible. My mantra has been from the very beginning that I want to lead like Jesus. And there's no doubt that this past year hasn't been challenging, and all of our years in our working world are challenging. And to just see how, Jesus went from being praised 1 minute to persecuted the next. I mean, what a reminder as a leader. We all face that this year, where 1 minute we're getting cheered and the next minute you're getting booed off the stage, and those sort of things happen. But just to see how consistent he remained through that, and there are just so many life lessons. I'm not a huge Old Testament fan, but the New Testament, I can pull a different nugget out of there. I can find that motivation, that inspiration that I need every single day. I can dive in there and find that life lesson that I can apply to my life. And so that's why that book, no matter what situation, no matter what season of life in, that's what I'm always turning to. And my daily prayers, I've said I've been able to sleep every night as a school leader, because every day I lay those prayers and concerns and just turn it over to him to give me the guidance and wisdom to be able to make the best decisions that I can. And that's what I rest my life on as a school leader, and look forward to continuing a long career doing that. So
you really you hit a good point for me on that. Like 1 minute you're praised, I forget exactly, and 1 minute you're persecuted.
Yeah.
Like, man, that's been me recently. I mean, I just feel like that's been I appreciate that, because I feel like that's the way it's been here these last couple of weeks here in our district. So I appreciate that. Okay. Next question. What is one phone app that has positively impacted your life?
Yeah, Google Notes and Calendar as a shared superintendent, being able to have Google Notes and Google Calendar that lets me know where I'm supposed to be. And so I have notes on all of my different staff members that, when you're between 4 buildings and across two districts, it's sometimes you lose track of stuff, or I'm not very good at like Post-it notes and pads and losing pads. And so I don't ever seem to lose my phone, or I can use the Find My Phone app to find my phone. And so for me, having all of that at the ready, it has been key. So just the Google Notes and Calendar are huge time savers for me, and definitely positively impact everything I do.
You mentioned your fiance is down the Quad Cities. That's not a short drive from where you're at, right?
No. So I've got 3 hours to listen to podcasts.
Oh,
quite a bit. So Jared, I've listened to I'm excited to be number 70. I've listened to all 69
oh gosh,
of the recent of the previous iterations of this.
Good.
So no, I love to learn. And so for me, I can download 3 hours of podcast and just kind of head right down the road. It's also a great way for me to connect with friends and family on those drives back and forth that I don't get to connect with all the time during the working week and that sort of thing. So yeah, that's been a challenge. We are both definitely ready to be married and get married. And we're building a house right now too. So that's kind of crazy. We're building a house during a pandemic. I've been leading 2 districts through a pandemic, decided to get engaged and soon to be married. And so it's been a crazy year, but it's been a great year. And like I said, so many people will say like, oh, 2020 and 2021, what downer years. I would say directly the opposite. It's highlighted a lot of things as a leader. It's really had to show me, what's important in life, and has definitely kind of reset some priorities for me, both professionally and personally.
So my question was going to be, you got those 3-hour drives, you got the podcast rolling.
Yeah.
Do you have a go-to snack or a go-to drink at the convenience store for these 3-hour drives?
You bet. Well, so the no BS bars, specifically the chocolate sea salt or the blueberry, those are my 2 go-tos. And then it's the Casey's Classic Coffee. You ask either of my brothers and I, we will take any coffee in the world besides some hand poured thing. The Casey's Classic reigns supreme for us. And so it's a Casey Classic coffee and a no BS bar for me.
Because I'm looking at, I thought that it's kind of the unique wrapper where they say exactly what goes in, like
right.
2 egg whites, 4 almonds, 5 cashews, one date, no bad stuff. So that's what's always, I love a good protein bar or a health bar, but I have never know which one to get because there's so many. So that's what you're saying.
Some have so many like sugar and other things in it. I just love and you obviously you pay for that, having it be natural. But no, Sarah, my fiance Sarah, and I, we both love those. It's a good quick snack, and it definitely sustains you on that ride until you get down there and are ready for date night on Friday night. For us, that's usually a nice balance because it's usually pizza night by the time we're both off work and everything on Friday night, and either she's coming up here or I'm going down there.
So aside, you've already done a great job of telling us, how you responded when you didn't get a job. I'm going to go on to the next question, which says, aside from not getting a job, do you have a favorite failure?
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I'm 21 years old, just got my first teaching and coaching job up at HMS, and I'm going to take my high school wrestling team to the Tom Brands Wrestles the World Team Camp. A week before, district gets this beautiful new Suburban. I think it's like $70,000. 12 miles on the darn thing. They had just driven it from Sheldon to Hartley. 12 miles on it. I have never driven a vehicle that big. I back it up right into a light pole, $7,500 worth of damage before I've even received one paycheck or done one thing for the district. I've never been so embarrassed. That was definitely the biggest failure.
You've got some good stories.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
wow. Yeah, that would be embarrassing right off the bat. Whew. So you said $7,500. So that had to be paid out of your pocket. Is that
No,
okay? Okay. Okay.
they didn't make me do that, but
But
just
still,
they remembered that, and they reminded me of that in my 5 years there. And still, when I go up there for a graduation or to connect with the families up there again, they still will bring that up all the time. When I've got wrestling reunions down at the state tournament, that always becomes a story and a laugh.
mm. So you've talked about all the things going on in your life, and there's a lot. What's your best tip for being productive?
You got to find the time that works for you to be productive. Some people it's the 5 a.m. thing. Other people, they work best at night. You got to find the time to get your sleep. That was something for a lot of my career where I was I was saying the right thing but wasn't doing the right thing. And it hasn't been until about this last 18 months that I've truly gotten that into perspective and find the time where, hey, when can I have that time when I'm going to be most productive, where I'm not going to be distracted, but also to ensure that I do get that 7 hours of sleep that I truly need to keep me recharged and replenished and ready to be successful. So for me, that's my best tip for being productive. Not everybody is a morning person, and so that 5 a.m. idea doesn't work for some people. For me, right now in my life, the 5 to 7:30 a.m. is a huge time for me. It's when I found the time to be the most productive. But that also means that I'm not staying up for the late show with Jimmy Kimmel anymore.
So you're shooting for 7 hours a night. Is that right?
Yeah, that's what I'm shooting
Yeah.
for. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Good. All right, Dr. Z. Hey, man, what's your one big goal you're working on right now? You've got so much going on, but what's that one big goal?
Again, and I'm not a big goal person. I'm big on let's just get a little bit better every day. And so in all aspects of my life, I'm just looking to improve 1% better every day. I'm hoping that my house gets built 1% more tomorrow. I'm hoping that we follow through on this strategic improvement plan just 1% more tomorrow. I'm hoping that I help my district, with budgeting and how we're going to use our ESSER funds and those sort of things, just 1% better, just a little bit better. And so that's my thing. Ultimately, we're driving everything by the strategic improvement plan that we've created. And so my big goal right now is to help carry that forward and move that forward so we can truly reach those big ideas, those big goals, those big visions that we had when we got together in 2019 and developed it.
Okay, man. We're at 54 minutes, which is great. I mean, I just love, I don't know, the responses you've given have been outstanding. I cannot say that enough. Is there anything that we didn't talk about that you were hoping to talk about that you want to share?
Well, I know this is kind of the end of the year, and I know this will be rolling out for most people at the end of their years. And I just want to give a shout out to every single educator, every single leader that's listening to this podcast. I want you to pat yourself on the back. I want you to look yourself in the mirror, and I want you to do something for yourself in this next month, because you've been through a lot, you've done a lot, and you guys need to be proud. We have led districts, and we have supported students, and we have supported staff through some of the most challenging times. I've got 247 college credits, and there was not one single chapter, one single lecture from one single book that prepared me for what we dealt with in this past year. So look at yourself, be proud of yourself, make sure you take some time for yourself this summer, and hey, get recharged, and let's make the most of the 21-22 school year and beyond.
Awesome, man. Well, hey, I appreciate it. I always ask the last question is, where can people connect with you at? One thing you've mentioned a few times, I'm curious how people can go find it, is your strategic plan, which is one thing that I noticed that I was real impressed with as I've been following your work. So where can people find you, and where can they find that strategic plan?
Right. So as far as finding me professionally, it's best on Twitter. So just at Dr. Adam Zellmer is the best place to find me and reach out for any contact and communication. And then our school website, www.southhardensschools.k12.ia.us is where you would be able to find our strategic plan under the district tab. So.
Cool, man. All right. Well, hey, Dr. Z, I'm going to let you go on your way there. I appreciate it. Have a great last few days of school here, and to keep doing the great work, man, and good luck, and have fun. And let me know how I'm really, you struck a chord with me with this all inclusive in the United States. Not that I don't mind going outside the United States, but like, I didn't know there was such a thing. So very cool, man. Enjoy that. Have some fun.
Sounds great. Thank you very much for your time, and have a great rest of your year.
All right. Thanks, man.